All right, so I added the handle and the cap, and one of the things that we need to take a quick look at. Let's see, my drive. We'll get back into the parts. Find my A5 folder. All right, so if we go to rename this, I said that I typed in vice jaw handle cap. Um, let's make sure. And with Windows 11, there should be more options. In Windows 10, the SolidWorks option should be there. So what this is going to do, since it's currently open, it's probably going to bark at me, but it's showing the two locations. And then I have to close the document. Yep, I guess it would help to cancel that. All right, so that's going to be our basic process. So since the drawing's open, it doesn't necessarily mean that the part is open. But if I come over to the File Explorer, I can take a look at Open In, and because all of these are loaded in the background in memory, it's not going to let me just rename. And there's a good possibility that I'll have to close SolidWorks, but that's the basic process. We'll take care of that. But that's going to be the safest way. If you just go into Windows Explorer and rename, it's going to not update those links. And sometimes even when you do it out of the SolidWorks utility, it doesn't update the links, but it will ask you where that file is located. So renaming comes with that little bit of a make sure that you are being conscious of your process. All right, the other two are the purchase parts. Our socket head cap screws are showing up in orange as being linked back to the toolbox library, so I won't deal with those right now. So I'm going to pause for a second and close this out. All right, so what I wasn't sure of is if it was going to let me rename. So it did, going back in. I did sometimes with items loaded in memory, you have to close SolidWorks completely out because that can be take a little time. I didn't want it really to show up in the video, but running through the process one more time. Let's see, I don't know if I can make that a little bit higher. It's right there at the show more options just off my screen. And SolidWorks and rename. Since it's not loaded into memory currently, it shows the two places where it's used. I back over my mistake, I hit OK. Well, it's basically the same name. And since I've already made that change, and then next time I open, if I go back into my items recent, we'll open up the drawing. And now this one is going to be pointed to, let's see if we can find its location. How about the open vice handle cap instead of vice jaw handle cap, whatever I called it. All right, so going back into the File Explorer, that is the item that's open. Everything else is showing as kind of grayed or um, being loaded in the background. Doesn't require that it's there. When we're looking at the bill of materials, I have 9 pieces. So I have the assembly, and my sheets, if I end up with a lot of sheets, because there's a natural crossover, a subassembly somewhere between like 5 and 20 parts is going to be manageable. Problem is that we're going to fill up all of these, and so at some point I may want to rename. And for this one, I think I will try to move my screen down a little bit so that it does get in there and rename. And I'll just do things like put the to S10 or something, so that there's a little more room. And I don't really use the slider bars. So it's, if it's covered up, it's not really that big of a deal. We can manage those, but shortening those up is handy sometimes. All right, so again, we're not looking for perfectly detailed items. Just want to run through some of the basics. So an annotation, if I go center line view, select view. And if it doesn't like that, then I will select my two items. And basically it just is kind of aligning those guys up. And smart dimension, and I'm still in the isometric, so you can kind of decide which ones ANSI or ISO you want to work from. And we have a height, we have some locations. And a lot of these are just habit and see what they look like. And 90 degrees, so I was picking way out. So I'm going to escape a couple times. If I escape one more time, then it will kick me out of the smart dimension, but as long as I'm seeing that icon, I will still be in those selections. So probably could have gone the other way and cleaned that up a little bit. And then for our whole call out, then the M5 by 10 millimeter, 12.4 deep. And I think as a best practice, picking those guys is going to be better. So size-wise, would probably put the other dimensions in. Since I don't have a center line there, let's go back into the center line. We'll select those two so it picks that guy up. And then we could do something like the 30 degrees. And then between the 60 degrees, we'd want to, there's a couple ways to go about this. My preference from an inspection or a measuring standpoint is often we won't have the mating part at the same time. So a lot of times if I go into a sketch and I know that I can pick a gauge pen, let's just say let's see, I'm still in the millimeters, grams, and seconds. So if I were to make this the 0.25 inch, all right, so a quarter inch doesn't look too terrible there. So this is going to also be reference geometry, and this is kind of a tangent for sure. And while that's selected, we'll make it for construction and make sure that this is an inspection dimension. And tangent. And tangent. Then smart dimension, holding down the shift button. Oh, I guess it would help to make those equal so that I don't have one bigger and one smaller. I got the tangencies, but then why didn't it? So looks like, let's see, so 6.35, 3.1. All right, so here I go doing math. 6.35 divided by 2. Nope, it's not gonna take it. So since I left that one before I put the dimension in it, we'll draw it back in. Okay, and the 175, that makes sense. And we'll go tangent and tangent and for construction and 26.61. Oh, and since I forgot to hold down the shifts, but I did select the perimeters, I can go min to min and back to my value. That also becomes an inspection dimension. All right, so not terrible. Maybe not great, but not terrible. All right, so what it's pretty much telling it is that when I'm manufacturing this, I can put a 1/4 inch dowel pin, a 1/4 inch dowel pin, and measure between those two pins, and then my tolerance zone would get me at least a reference for the inspection. So we can build some of those items in as well. Just notice that when I picked the line, it went to the radius. So let's see if we can grab those handles. No, it's not liking that one for some reason. All right, one more shot at it. There we go. And then it kicked my dimension way out there. That's always fun. All right, so some different things that we can do would probably finish these guys off with this and this, because the dimensions that were actually given for this dovetail and the type of cutter that we would use to make that geometry, just placing that dimension and measuring to this edge, that's really not going to be accurate enough to ensure fit. Now there is plenty of clearance in the mating piece, but there is also a higher level of fit so it doesn't become too wobbly. All right, so I'm just going to run through the rest of these since I was having way too much fun. Whole call out again is going to be picking up the M5s and the M8. The only dimension we really need here is the thickness. So the 8. So always kind of do that go down first, but then if there's room, we'll slide those back in, kind of clean up as we go. And so on the top, we'll pick up that one, that one. Let's see, which way do I want to go here? And since I got a 90-degree on that one, I'm going to probably run out of room on the lower side, so we're going to have to move everything up. Oh, let's just go ahead with that one. All right, so that can move up a little bit. And we'll kind of use the view. Escape a couple times to get out of the dimension because it wasn't really letting me move the view. We'll bring that down a little bit, buy ourselves some more room, look for centering, position. All right, so it's just kind of a cleanup. Find something that looks good, that makes sense, and we can go through. All right, so this is a fairly quick process. Once we get moving on it, M12, same counterbore setup, would do the same basic dimensions that we were putting on. All right, and then same thing here. If I wanted to draw those pins in, we'd be measuring over the pins. Another hole call out. All right, so on this one, you know, pretty much the hole call out or the dimension. And there have been a couple times where for whatever reason I wasn't able to get the hole call out work, but the smart dimension, the cosmetic thread and the hole wizard items were a little bit strange there. So if we left the type on, and let's see, are we going to be able to pick up? Does not appear to be showing me the cosmetic thread, so M12 by 1.75 on that sizing. All right, but the main thing is I want that to be related back to the part, so that if something happens that I change that from an M12 by 1.75 to 1.5, all I have to do is look at that call out, and then we'll pick up the geometry and make sure that it did it correct. All right, so I'm just going to go through and put some general dimensions on this, find some locations. Again, the one I want to call out here is going to be in my more dimensions. That one's just off the screen again, so we're going to go to chamfer. When you pick the chamfer, you go to the angle first and then to one of the connected. 1 millimeter. Pretty sure all of these are the 1 millimeter, so we'll go 3 times. And position that a little bit better. That looks okay. Alright, so this one did not come up with a center mark, so we'll grab a center mark. Alright, so basically going into the center mark and picking the arc. Since there's only one, it's probably as easy to do that as it is to tell it to center mark the whole view. And all of those standard dimensions. I hovered over the settings, which is basically all the parameters that show up for the dimension. And then there were 4 of those and 2 of those. So in that case, this comes down to if something happens, I need to go back through the drawing and verify that those numbers stay correct. So if we make a design change, then I'm responsible for counting those guys up. All right, and then the smart dimension again, cosmetic thread, that one went to 5. See if the whole call out will pick it up. No. So that one went to 6. Yep. And that one doesn't look like it went deep enough. All right, well, we'll have to figure that one out. So let's see if it'll do it on this end. 10 for the depth is fine. Now it worked on the other one, but I'm not sure why it's not working on this one. So I was looking by the for the M6 by 1. And if I pick the cosmetic thread, it should be picking that up, but it's going right to the geometry. So we will have to find out what's going on with that one. All right, so if it doesn't work, we'll go back and catch up with that one later. But pretty much go through the views, do a couple of passes, add dimensions, look for little mistakes like that. This is our iterative process of error checking and refining as we go, and eventually we'll have our working document ready for review.